Hello, this is AstrologyNewsReport.com with your hosts, David Anton Savage and Ron Berger.
Now we go to our third segment of this week's report, People in the News, where we will analyze the Vedic Astrology birth chart of a newsworthy person, place, or event.
This week we've decided to analyze the birth chart of Narendra Modi, who is now going to be the next Prime Minister of India, since his party, the BJP, has won overwhelmingly in the recent elections in that country.
Mr. Modi was born on September 17th, 1950, in Mehsana in the state of Gujarat, India. The given birth time is 11 a.m., which we can take as approximate.
It looks like it would be the correct chart, with many planets in powerful positions. In order to rise from the humble circumstances to which he was born to where he is now, you have to have a very strong chart.
The rising sign is Scorpio, a sign known for deep feelings, passion, and a certain restlessness. Scorpios need to act on their feelings. Scorpio people have an instinct for power. They consciously form alliances in order to acquire power and to use that power. Typically, this sign is associated with some controversy in one's life, and certainly Mr. Modi qualifies on that point.
The big question is whether they will use the power for good or for ill. After all, Mr. Modi, in his early days, he was a member of the RSS, a right-wing extremist paramilitary group that espouses Hindu exceptionalism.
And then there was that whole fracas about his lack of response to the sectarian riots in Gujarat while he was chief minister of that state.
Mars, the ruler of the rising sign Scorpio, is in the first house, giving the chart a lot of inherent strength. Mars is the planet of energy, the planet of action. Mars is aggressive, eager for challenges. A person with Mars in the first house, especially in its own sign, is a force to be reckoned with.
Note, too, that the moon, the ruler of the ninth house of beliefs and good fortune for a Scorpio rising chart, is in the first house as well. Whenever the ninth house and first house rulers are connected in a chart, the person is destined for an above-average life.
And with the moon in the first house, the moon chart is identical to the rising sign chart, which confirms the setup of all the natal planetary relationships and reinforces the overall chart karma.
That's correct, David. So when we see that Mr. Modi has the moon, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn all in Kendra houses, we know that the resulting yogas are the same in the moon rising, the Chandralagna chart. Planets in the Kendras make a chart really strong.
In fact, with 5 planets occupying the Kendras, we have yet another indication of a dynamic, event-filled life. Perhaps the most important Kendra is the 10th house, especially for a politician. The 10th house signifies for actions in the community.
Here we see that Saturn and Venus are both in the 10th. Saturn is the planet of responsibility and control. It is found in this placement in the charts of people who take on major responsibilities in their lives.
And Venus in the 10th house is also useful. The planet of relationship and appearance in the house of public actions makes you popular with the people.
Note, too, the strength of his 11th house of goals and ambitions, friends and associations. The ruler of the 11th, Mercury, is there in the 11th. Conjunct the planet of power and authority, the Sun, who rules the 10th house of public actions. Sun in the 11th house gives you powerful friends. Modi rose up through the ranks of the party by befriending those who were in positions of authority.
Ron, what do you have to say about Ketu's conjunction with Mercury and the Sun?
Ketu is the connection with past life karma. When it is conjunct the Sun, it means that you had a connection with power and powerful people in your past life. Ketu with a strong Mercury, planet of the intellect, is similarly an indication of inherited strong mental capacity. Remember that Modi started out in politics as a propagandist. Later he was a key strategist for the BJP in the successful 1995 and 1998 Gujarat state election campaigns.
Clearly, there are enough indications in his chart to show for good connections, a public life out in front, skills and ambition. Yes, Scorpio can be a sign fraught with problems, but at its best, it indicates for people who can inspire others to a common goal.
And speaking of goals, Mr. Modi's ascendant degree, as well as natal Mars, is in the nakshatra Vishaka, the lunar sign of setting goals and achieving victory, symbolized by the triumphal archway.
Well, on that note, let's shift gears and look at the near term for the future of a government led by Mr. Modi and the BJP.
We will take another look at the chart of India as well, to try to get a sense of how things are going to work out.
Narendra Modi has attained high office while running his moon major period during the sub-period of Rahu, an auspicious combination.
His moon, the planet of the public, rules his ninth house of destiny, while Rahu, planet of ambition, is in his fifth house of good past life credit. Thus, by the rules of Vedic astrology, both of these good houses are lit up, are activated, to deliver the karma at this time.
Furthermore, the moon is in his first house of self and is being aspected by Rahu, a relationship between major period ruler and the sub-period ruler, lending more enhancement.
At this time, we lack the information on making the inauguration chart, but what we can say is that his next two sub-periods, Jupiter and Saturn, both indicate for being active and getting results. Both of these planets are in Kendra houses again, and mutually aspecting each other in the chart.
The transit of Jupiter will also be helpful as he begins his term of office. Jupiter enters its sign of exaltation in his ninth house of belief and good fortune on June 18th of this year. This part of his chart is already activated by the major period ruler, the moon. Jupiter transiting here will give him much optimism for moving ahead with his ideas for the country.
But, on the other hand, Saturn enters Scorpio, again his first house, on November 2nd of this year. The reality check planet, hitting his ascendant and simultaneously his natal moon, shows that the next 2 years are going to be much less of a cakewalk than the Jupiter transit suggests.
Yep, Prime Minister Modi will definitely be feeling the pressure of responsibility on his shoulders. He will be in the middle of his Sati period, so it will be a time tempered by the serious and the sober.
He will have much on his heavy plate, but let's take a look at the chart of India. Since Mr. Modi's karma does not take place in a vacuum, there are wider circumstances to consider.
He has been declared the winner, just as India has entered the Ketu sub-period of its Sun major period in the first week of May. The Sun rules the fourth house of the opposition party, and Ketu helped turn over more than a few political apple carts in this election cycle.
Yes, Ketu, the sub-period ruler, does make for change in the chart of India. Then in September, India will begin the Venus sub-period of the Sun major period. Venus is in that packed third house of efforts and desires, and it rules the first house of the nation itself, and the sixth house of struggles and difficulties.
Oh boy, that sounds like an adjustment period is in the offing. The Congress Party, which has been well entrenched over the decades, things are about to change. No more business as usual, and this is about to stir things up for those who are comfortable with the way it was.
And when we look ahead just a little further down the road, next year, India begins its 10-year moon major period in September of 2015.
That has my attention for sure. The ruler of the third house of neighboring countries is strong in his own house and conjunct that 5-planet stellium. All I can say is, wow.
Yeah, let's not forget that the third house is also the infrastructure of a country, the day-to-day routines of the masses.
In the near term, that transit of an exalted Jupiter coming up ought to offer some benefit to the affairs of the third house. Then there's the Saturn transit. Saturn enters Scorpio, the 7th house, which stands for partner countries, but also the direct enemy. Combine that with the activation of the 3rd house of neighboring countries, and you can see where things could be going in another year from now.
Since the moon is the planet of the public and it is the emotional mind, the upcoming 10-year moon period will be quite compelling, but complicated for the nation of India.
All I know is that trying to read outcomes when there are that many planets jammed together in one house, it makes for murky astrological waters indeed.
Yep, meaning it won't be clear exactly where things are going at the time.
Let's just hope that the BJP's Hindu nationalist bent doesn't overwhelm the direction of the country. There's already too much potential for things getting out of control.
And on that point, hopefully age and wisdom have tempered Mr. Modi's soul. History shows when countries get stressed, nationalism intensifies and war becomes a real danger.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of AstrologyNewsReport.com. Be sure to click in with us next week.